Feeling a little Christmassy. Turkey Day's right around the corner. and he found us some more Christmassy music today. So we're going to be talking about the silver tsunami. I already saw some comments come in asking what the boomer silver tsunami is. And this is an expression that has been used, honest to God. I swear, I've heard about this silver tsunami for the last 15 years. Originally, when they said the silver tsunami they said that there was going to be a bunch of baby boomers who sold their first time homes and they would move to areas like Florida, and then we'd have an excess of smaller homes in areas where people are retiring from, like up in the Northeast and, some of the other areas, that we were going to have this wave of vacant homes that were owned by baby boomers that were not going to be, it was going to basically, what they were suggesting years ago was that it was going to cause a market collapse or at least an adjustment, that home prices were going to fall because there was going to be this excess of baby boomer homes on the market. Well, as time has gone on, that has never come to fruition. Quite the opposite. And so now they're saying that baby boomers own, well, we'll get into the articles in just a minute, but that's the synopsis of the original expression of a silver tsunami. Boomers that own a lot of real estate and that it affects the market in one way or another. That's what the expression means. So we're going to talk about that a little bit more. I do want to give a little shout out to Thanksgiving. That is this Thursday. If you haven't yet, go get your stuff. The grocery stores are madhouse. If you have the Monday, take your Monday lunch and grab all your stuff that you need. Make sure you defrost your turkey in time because, they're frozen. So make sure you defrost it. Done that one year. Wasn't completely defrosted. So I just wanted to give you guys a little heads up, little warning. Sorry for the delay today. We had a little technical difficulties. So, it took us a couple of minutes to get it started this morning. So this morning, it's not even this morning, it's this afternoon. So I hope everybody's doing okay. Let me know where you're coming in from in the chat. And so I can put you up on the screen. Eddie can put you up on the screen. Johnny O, right at the beginning of the hour, look at this with $100 super chat. Thank you so much for the support. I appreciate your support so much. I really do. It's so nice when, people come in and are able to just, give whatever, because it does help the channel out. It helps us with new equipment and microphones and cameras and stuff like this. And I will be getting a camera for myself for Christmas. I'm going to be filming stuff in 4K. Not that anybody cares, but yeah. So, all right, let's get into the meat and potatoes of things. Let's start talking about the silver tsunami. Eddie, if you could please pull up one of the articles you were able to find without the paywall up. That was our technical difficulty, by the way. I pulled up these articles. They didn't have the paywall up. I went to pull them up again this afternoon, and they all had the paywall up. And I'm like, oh. So, all right. A silver tsunami is about to upend the housing market, says an analyst who accurately predicted the 2008 financial crisis. Do you know that every single analyst supposedly accurately predicted the 2008 crisis? I mean, I guess anybody can claim that because, the internet was, not as prevalent at that time as it is today. So anyways, it's been a challenging time for more hopeful home buyers as soaring prices and mortgage rates are a bit of good news. Might be right around the corner because, interest rates have gone down a little bit. During the Yahoo Finance conference, Meredith Whitley accurately predicted the 2008 financial crisis and became known as the Oracle of Wall Street. Ooh, look, so she wanted with these around her. Ooh, she's an oracle. She said that housing prices will fall in 2024 due to the silver tsunami of baby boomers who are expected to downsize in coming years. Oh, so she's going on that same thing. I'm going to tell you right now, I do not see this happening. She might be the oracle, but I think she might be wrong. I think she's meditating too long. Let's go on. Let's read a little bit further. Tsunami makes it sound like there's going to be all these people. Highlighting estimates from AARP, Whitney said that over 51% of individuals age 50 and above who own more than 70% of U.S. homes are projected to move into smaller residences. Downsizing the trend could result in 30 million units of housing being brought onto the market. This is, she's so dead wrong. I mean, and I'm going to tell you why I think this. The supply demand dynamics are shifting as the supply of homes for sale increases while the prices decline, fueling a multi-decade cycle that will start in 2024 and continue into 2025. While with older Americans sitting on a significant amount of home equity, higher mortgage rates are unlikely to impact downsizing decisions. The decisions of downsizing often hinges on someone's retirement timeline. Although the roughly half of retirees 55 and up do move into smaller homes after retirement, the 3 of 10 actually move to a larger home to accommodate their visitors per Merrill Lynch retirement study. Okay, so she's going with this whole thing that she believes that because we're hitting retirement age, that people over the age of 50 are going to no longer want their bigger homes and they're going to want something smaller. The thing is most people that are like a good portion of baby boomers don't even have mortgages to begin with. Like it's like over 42% of the United States currently is without a mortgage. 42% of residential real estate has no mortgage on it. It's done. So those people they're saying are going to take it and downsize, right? They're just going to go ahead and transfer that wealth and buy a second home. If a good portion of those people want to keep their original home, and that's been proven over the last 3 years, the biggest number of homes that were sold over the last couple of years were to baby boomers, and they didn't sell their original house. They kept it. They wanted a second house. So I can't, unless there is a wave of illness that takes out a good portion of baby boomers, that would be the only way I could see that there be a excess, not necessarily a tsunami of homes coming onto the market. And the other thing that she doesn't address, and she doesn't even put in perspective because she's putting it all in numbers, is there isn't that much new construction that is smaller that will allow for them to downsize in the first place. It doesn't exist. The homes that have been built for the last I'll even say the last 7 years are the bigger houses, because builders aren't going to be they don't make money off of 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses. They make money off of big houses, large houses, and they fit as much of a home that they possibly can on those postage stamp lots to make as much money as they can. They haven't built small homes. So you're going to tell me that they're going to downsize to what? There's nothing there. It doesn't even make sense. It's laughable. I mean, honestly, it's laughable. I would love to be 100% wrong. Somebody needs to bookmark this in 5 years, and let's just see if there was this silver tsunami, because they've been saying this, I swear to God, for 15 years, there was going to be this big wave of smaller homes hitting the market because baby boomers were going to sell them. And I just don't see it happening. They love their homes. They love real estate. They love what real estate can do for them. They know that it's wealth building. They're not going to get rid of it. They'll hold on to it till day's end. They'll rent it out before they'll sell it. That's what I think. Yep. Downsizing to what homes? Exactly, Lori. Isn't that the issue? There's no smaller homes. That is exactly it. An analyst is only looking at one set of numbers. And I'm not doubting that she's absolutely brilliant, right? In a normal market, if you're looking at market conditions with the type of homes that we had 20 years ago and what was being built, that would make sense. But since then, they have not been building smaller homes, and there's nothing for them to move into. It wouldn't even make them financial sense to do it. And sure, they don't have a mortgage. I mean, they wouldn't have a mortgage. If they were downsizing, they would just walk in and buy it cash. So, the mortgage rates wouldn't affect them, but there's nothing for them to buy. There's nothing for them to buy. So I don't know. So sometimes I think, sometimes you get lost in the sauce, I've done it myself where I'm just so tunnel visioned that I'm I know that I'm right. But you have to put all the perspectives. You can't just look at things and compare data from years ago and think this is going to be exactly what happens today, because there's so many different factors. And the biggest one is that we're not building small homes, and we haven't been. John says, I'm a boomer who upsized my home because I didn't feel like I didn't see it as affordable in the long term. My median size home is almost paid off, and I'm certainly don't plan on downsizing. My parents didn't downsize either. My dad retired very young. He was very fortunate to be able to do that. And when they sold their house, they did go from a 2-story to 1-story, but it was the same square footage. It was just flat on the ground. And then the house after that, they've bought like 3 houses since they retired. The house after that was even bigger. It was I think it was the biggest house they ever lived in. And there was just the 2 of them. I mean, it was on the golf course, at a swimming pool. It was fantastic. And then this one that they have now, I mean, it's a little bit smaller than the one they had in Florida, but I mean, it's still it's pretty big for 2 people. I mean, it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house. It's with a fairly big yard. So, oh, look at Johnny O says heart and soul in Colorado, but physically in South Florida. I lived in Orlando. I visited South Florida. I used to go to, you want to know something about me, guys? I used to go to Miami and Fort Lauderdale to the raves back in the day. I used to have a lot of fun in South Florida. Thank God there was no internet then. Cell phones were not a thing. I want to downsize. I want a 3,000 square foot home on 100 acres. You know what I want? Quiet. The Quiet Signal is the channel name. I want, and everybody, you tell me if you think this dream is relatable. I want to have 5 to 10 acres. I want to put in the middle of the 5 to 10 acres a big patch of trees around it. And then I want 3 or 4 tiny homes. So I could have a tiny home for myself, a tiny home for my husband, a tiny home for kitchen, and then a tiny home for storage stuff. It could even be just a storage container just for Christmas stuff and gardening stuff and everything. So that way we have our own space, a space we meet together, and then we can have our whole life. We just need to expand, we just need to spread out. I don't want any more neighbors telling me what to do. So, and that way, because I'm super messy. I mean, bless Eddie's heart, bless his heart, because I'm really a pig. I'm really messy. And he's the one that always is picking up after all of us. So if we had our own individual tiny homes, he wouldn't have to pick up after me. He could keep his house pristine, and mine could be a pig sty. I like it. It's an organized mess. I know what I'm looking for. So BD Douglas says the more acreage between neighbors is the better. Yeah. They used to say, better fences make for better neighbors, but I don't think there's a fence high enough. I genuinely don't. My daughter one day was out back, and we have one of those targets, and it's she was just doing a little bow thing, but they were the safety bows. It wouldn't go through a fence. I mean, it probably would hurt, but no more than a BB. She was little. She didn't have a really arm strength. Well, the arrow flies over to the neighbor's fence. And this guy, my neighbor, starts to give my kid a 15-minute lecture on the safety of shooting a bow and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, this is not your job. Back off. Nobody got hurt. Her bow her arrow just went over the fence. It didn't go into your grass or anything. It just landed there. Nobody, chill. So after that, I was like, no more practicing in the backyard. Neighbors suck sometimes. My neighbor on the other side's fine though. Flippity flop flop. Oh, what did Flippity Flop Flop say? I didn't get to read what Flippity Flop said. That was a cool screen name. Oh, Flippity Flop said, I pray the oracle is right. Boomers need to let their younger generation start acquiring their own homes and starting families instead of hoarding all the resources for themselves. In a way, I agree with you, but there is going to be a wealth transfer at some point, right? If we're being realistic, and this may sound morbid, people don't live forever. They just don't. And so the wealth that has been accumulated in those homes, if it was transferred correctly, is going to go to the younger generations, whether they like it or not, So it will happen. It will happen. It just may not be the way that, it should have been that, like, everybody years ago, you got retired, you sold your house up north, and then you moved to the south. That's what a lot of people did. But as people got smarter with their money, they knew that holding on to the real estate could be very cost effective for them. A lot of them subsidize their retirement from their home that they, raise their children in. They use that as a rental so they can subsidize their retirement, so they can actually retire. I don't blame them. I mean, I'm not angry with baby boomers for doing that. I mean, that was smart of them. They were able to capitalize on that. But I can see the frustration with younger generations that have that, because they see a home that's sitting there vacant and they're like, well, those people only live there 6 months out of the year. That could be really helpful for me and my family and the kids that go down on the school bus down the road. And I I get it, I really do. The problem comes down to build smaller homes for younger and older generations that don't want those big mansions anymore. The problem with that is that it's too expensive for home builders to do that. And the only way that we can circumvent that is to offer initiatives to home builders to build smaller, where they get tax credits for building smaller. And, like, they're not going to lose. I don't blame them. Why would they want to lose money to build houses? They don't want to lose money. This is the only way they make their business. So, we got to step in somewhere to make it better. If there was somewhere for younger generations to move and older generations that do want to downsize to move to, then it was possible. But the thought, or I don't know, the whole idea of a silver tsunami, because there's so many more baby boomers than there are younger generations putting their houses on the market and causing a flood of homes to hit the market. I just can't see that happening. And like I said, they've been promising this forever. Smallhornville. Do you think I should start my own town? MH8. MH8 thinks I should start my own town. It's called Smallhornville. It would be like the like Cindy Lou Who, what was that? I can't even think. It was the Grinch, and they lived in Whoville. It'd be Smallhornville. Quiet Signal says, and I want to own my own auto repair shop with a lift. That would be nice. Totally off the topic of real estate. I have to tell you guys this. I decided to make my children their Christmas gift this year, because I was fortunate enough to be able to take my daughter on some trips this year, out and about. So Christmas is very light. And instead of spending money on gifts, I decided I'm going to take up a new hobby and decided I'm going to make dolls. Who does this? Like, how stupid, right? So I've been making dolls for my kids, and they're little dolls, little versions of themselves as dolls. I've actually bought the clay. They're not perfect by any means, but I'm making them homemade, and I'm so proud of myself. That was the other reason this was running late, because I was like putting makeup on last minute because I was playing with dolls afternoon. So, Lawnmower is working on immortality. So far, nothing's working. So far it's working. It's wow, immortality. Well, I guess, if you're living, I guess it's working. You could honestly claim that all the way to your deathbed. I'm immortal until one day you're not. Lawnmower is the commentologist. If you ever really want to find some entertainment in the chat, you just follow what Lawnmower says, because he's always got something little witty to say in there. I have to tell you this. I'm going to tell you a story. Lawnmower's been on my channel for a long time, and he would constantly change his specs of his house on Zillow, so it would change the Zestimate. So one time he had like 5 bedrooms or 10 bedrooms, and he kept constantly changing it. I think at one time they finally froze him out, but he just wanted to see how he could manipulate it to see how much equity they said his house was worth. How entertaining. All right. Somebody with the screen name says all over says, question, what about downsizing to a townhome? Okay, so this is something that I actually was talking to a bunch of real estate agents about recently. Now that multifamily building has increased, townhome living has also increased. And you're going to see in my video that comes out actually this Wednesday, the problem that a lot of these townhomes are, it's the same as manufactured home parks. It's the HOAs. With the manufactured home parks, it's the people that run the park itself. But the people with townhome, it's the HOAs. And these people are getting HOA dues that were never ever disclosed ahead of time. So they were told it was going to be this much. 6 months later, they say, oh, it's going to go up X amount of dollars. And they're like, wait a minute, our covenants say that it's only going to be 130. It can't go up that much. You're making it go up 130%. And you can't do that within 1 year. The most it can go up in a year is 40% the following year. That's the most, the max. And they're like, oh, well, sue us. And then they put liens on their property. Townhomes, unless this is one of those times that government has to get involved and work with people that live in townhomes and condominiums to make sure that these management companies don't ruin people's lives. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're putting liens on properties. They're foreclosing on properties. Townhomes have their place, but when a terrible management company takes over, your life is you're ruined. It's basically like you're renting and you have a landlord breathing down your neck all the time. And even when they're wrong, they have deeper pockets to fight you than you do, right? If you're living in a townhome, you're probably trying to be more cost effective, and you don't have the money to sue these homeowners associations for things like, charging 130% over 6 months more than your previous dues. And they're able to get away with it because they're a huge conglomerate and they know that you don't have the money. So they just hope that you lay over and take it, in some cases people have won, but in other cases they drag it out so far in the courts for so long that people lose their homes. So as good as townhomes are, the townhome only is as good as the HOA. I'll leave it at that. And the HOAs can leave you at any time too. So you could start with a really good HOA management company. The board decides to go with another management company, and then that management company ends up being a nightmare. Management companies make money on the flat fee dues that they make, but the other way that they make money is off of fines. So if they can find a way to fine you, they will fine you to death, and they have no remorse, none. Anyway, if you have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat. I would love to answer your questions. If I can't answer it, I will. I'll let you know that too. Jenna says, I heard on CBDC, I heard the new CBDC won't allow for family wealth to transfer to their kids within the next 10 years. Is that a state thing? I mean, like, inheritance laws are already there. I mean, wills are put together, and if they're done right, I don't know how you couldn't transfer the wealth. I will say this. So this is one of those things I was thinking about when it came to this too. So if you get ill and your family member ends up in a retirement home, a lot of family members that are older they only have so much money to pay for the house, for the actual care that they would have to go to in this retirement home. So what the retirement home company says is, okay, you can stay here and then you're going to sign your house over to us. And so basically all of that wealth that they gained in that house is sucked up by the company that's taking care of your family member who's now older. That's entirely possible. And I've always said this, I think that corporations are going to do their damnedest to grab as many homes as possible to turn us into renters as possible. I think that's the biggest grab. Corporations are greedy. They know that real estate makes them money. If they can hold on to an asset that makes them even more money, they will continue to do this. There's no laws in the book that says they can't. And a lot of times this is the biggest investment most people have, where they gain the most wealth from, is their home. So if they're going to find a way to suck the money out of those people, they'll figure it out. And healthcare is expensive, very. Christina, we'll both eat eat our hats if this silver tsunami happens. Yeah, I know. That's what I'm kind of thinking. Like, like still like I said, silver tsunami, like where are they going to go to? Not only that, if they're sickly, those retirement homes are going to eat up those homes and then keep them as rentals. Rent there isn't a shortage of investment companies that will be willing to buy smaller homes that need to be, just, what I call lipstick on a pig. There's going to be plenty of those out there that are willing to suck up those homes, either try to flip them or turn them into rentals. Most likely they're turn them into rentals. Maggie Smith says, I'm a boomer in a really small home. I can't wait to move from the state and I moved to because that's what I can afford. Yeah, a lot of people too, like if you lived up north for quite some time, real estate up north is very expensive and so are the taxes and all those things over the years, and you've gained a bunch of equity in your home, especially if you lived in a really nice area. And then you move to somewhere like, I don't know, Louisiana, you're going to feel like you won the freaking lottery because the amount of home that you could buy here for $400,000 is like a little mansion from where you're from. I'll never forget when I moved from Florida to here. I was like, oh, my mouth was on the floor. I was like, wow, this is great. And then like the cost of living all balanced out. They're like, oh, you have to pay state taxes. It all balances out. What you pay more in state taxes here is less than I had to pay as far as utilities and other things. It all was a wash at the end. So yeah, I will say that it's great when you move from one place and then you move to another and you're able to buy like your dream house with the same kind of money that you just sold your last house with. Peanut Butter Kinder, I love this. I love that screen name. I'm a boomer, never got married and had children. Never got richer either. I've said this several times. I don't think I would be in the financial shape that I'm in if I didn't have kids. And I mean that in a positive way. Because I was like, my husband and I, we were stupid when we were young. We did dumb stuff. We spent money on credit cards. We got ourselves in credit card debt. We did dumb, stupid stuff. And then once we decided, you know what, we didn't need to grow up and, raise a family and do all that kind of stuff. Then it was like, once we had a human being in front of us, I was like, oh man, we got to be responsible now. Like we got to keep this creature alive for, 18 years. And then it made us like be more responsible, a lot more responsible. I don't think I would have tried as hard in life because I'm always trying to make my kids proud of me. I don't think I would have tried as hard if I wasn't trying to do that. I know. Anyways, Lisa just found your channel recently and she really likes the great info. Thank you, Lisa. Lisa. I have a cousin named Lisa, and every time we saw her, we used to do that. Weissen Hunt's Honeybee Sanctuary. Oh, did you trap bees? Do you trap them? Do you like pick up? I have to know. Do you pick up the bees and then you rehome them in little boxes and stuff? I've seen that on. I've seen videos on that. It's very fascinating. Since I'm running for president of the United States, I would cap investment companies. Yeah, I would put a cap on investment companies. The thing is they're so sneaky and they have such deep pockets. They would just make another company. So they'd say, oh, us at Blackstone, we're not buying any more homes, but they went ahead and started another company called Tricon or, whatever, BlackBerry, whatever they were going to call it. And then they're just buying homes under that company. And then that caps out. And they're like, okay, well, we'll just invest money over here. And they all sit on each other's boards. If you ever look at any large company, look at their board of directors. And I guarantee Vanguard's on there. I guarantee BlackRock is on there. They always have a seat at the table. They got their hands in everything. If you turn out to be the bigger company, they will either find a way to buy you or they'll get a seat on your board, one or the other. They own us big time. Question. While I don't think there will be a silver tsunami, I do think there might be a period where we could be an oversupply of 55 plus only neighborhoods. Thoughts? If there is an oversupply of over 55 communities, that could easily shift in another direction. Like you don't have to keep a community over 55. if there seems to be a lot of vacancies and it happens over a period of time, those homes are usually smaller and they appeal to younger families. So all they have to do is rewrite the covenants that are filed restrictions and turn that into a community for everybody. They don't have to be 55 plus. I always wondered though, because like to me, 55 plus, isn't that a form? Forgive me if you feel like I'm wrong about this, but isn't that a form of discrimination? Like, why? How is that allowed? Is what I'm wondering. Because there's so many other things that we're not allowed to do. Why are we allowed to age discriminate for an area that people live in? Is it because they pay certain kinds of dues to fence that off? I have to ask a lawyer about that. I'm not 100% sure. SB says, you have to show us the dolls one day. Yeah, I will show you the dolls. I don't know if you can see a picture. I will show you a picture, like just really quick. I don't know if you can be able to tell from the thing that I've done, but they're silly. Okay, here we go. Can you see them? I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, but here's the doll. Here's one of them. Here's the other one. And I haven't done their clothes or anything, but I genuinely made the doll's head and everything, and the hair. So silly. I've had a lot of fun with it. And like this one even has piercings in its nose. So, Vivian has a question. I think older parents will want larger homes in order to have their kids move in with them to help them as they get older, or family members will, if they have no kids, would want that. You know what? That's a very interesting perspective. That's actually really smart. I hadn't even put that thought in my head when I was making the title for this video. There's more and more people, especially my age, that are open to that idea. Gen Xers, have no problem moving all of their family members back into a house. I know a couple families that actually added on to their house so their family could, like their children's family, could move into the house until they were able to afford their own house. Now that's possible. That is possible. I can't see a wave of it, like a tsunami of that happening. But as people get older and, prices of everything, with this inflation, that what they're going to do is nothing's ever going to go back to the prices they were before. They have increased it so incredibly high that when they bring it down, let's just say another, like 10%, something like that, they're gonna be like, oh, look, it's all come down. And it's not, that was nothing. They've already shrunk the size of whatever product you're buying or whatever. So the thought that people in the future will be able to afford homes because of this silver tsunami, I don't think that's realistic, but that's realistic. V-Man, I think that's very smart, that people would be like, you know what, let's just buy a huge house and the whole family live there. Other cultures do it. It's just not very culturally a thing here in the United States, but a lot of cultures do that. They all live in one house. I couldn't imagine that. Like there was a reason me and my sister don't live together or even near each other. So, Zilla's Plasma Burn said Zillow just added new home type for homes for rent, room for rent. That's really interesting because people are finding that is one of those ways that people are able to afford rents, because rents haven't dropped significantly in a lot of areas. So people are like, okay, well, I rent this, so maybe I can rent a room out to subsidize this. You have to renegotiate your leases. You can't do this, by the way, in a lot of areas. But the one thing I would caution people about doing this is to make sure there is no city or town ordinance that doesn't allow for you to rent a room out. There's been some areas that have said you cannot do it. And they said it was an effort to stop Airbnb abuse. I'm like, for renting out a room in your house? But they said it was because of that. I think it's because, they're hoping these people will give up their houses so they can scoop them up. But yeah, I think that's an awesome idea, especially to offset how expensive things are. We have to get creative, you just have to, like, the most insane thing that food is just driving me crazy, how incredibly expensive it is just to feed your family. And I was looking at a menu recently, and it was like chips and salsa for chips, salsa, and queso for $8.50 at this restaurant. And then I started pricing out a bag of chips uh, to go buy the queso and all the stuff that you need in that queso, the thing of salsa. I started pricing that all out, and I'm like, it comes out to $8.50. So might as well just freaking pick it up at the restaurant and enjoy it and not have to clean up my kitchen. You know? I don't eat out much, but sometimes you have to justify it that way. So it's just so expensive. Homes are so expensive. Electricity is so expensive. Gas is expensive. Insurance right now, homeowners insurance is absolutely the dumbest thing. My property taxes went up. How much did they go up, Eddie? Like another $400? $400. Ugh. And you know what? That could cause a lot of people to have to sell their homes. If they see the property taxes go up, they can't afford them, especially with insurance. That could cause a wave of homes heading up for sale, but not like a silver tsunami. I just don't see that. All right. What data is there to show builders will lose money building smaller homes other than the data from home builders? Actually, so if you look at the building costs and you look at their spreadsheets, they pencil it out. Like how much money can they make especially with the development of land. The most cost from home builders, it isn't the actual cost of building the house itself, it's the development of the land. So they're trying to squeeze as many houses as they possibly can on that piece of property. The other cost that incurs to home builders that they didn't account for when they started developing a lot of neighborhoods was the cost of labor. And skilled labor today is much more expensive than it's ever been because there's a lot less people that are willing to work for, low wages. Skilled workers working for low wages is harder to come by. So with that being said, that's what causes a lot of the houses to go up. But yeah, I would love to know what you're talking about. Like I would, other than coming from the National Home Builders Association, I get it. I get exactly what you're saying. I will look into that. That's an interesting topic. Is it really that much more? How much money would they actually lose if they were to build smaller homes? I've actually heard it from home builders where they said, I'd love to build a smaller home because it would take a lot less time for me to do it. I would need a lot less workers to do it. But the cost of the development of the land itself is what costs us so much money. I've heard them say that, to my face. And that makes sense to me because it takes years to develop a piece of land. It isn't just, like scrape the ground, throw some houses up. Like that piece of land has been being prepared for a neighborhood for sometimes over 10 years, especially if you're in California. You have to go through all this process to get that land developed. And it's a lot of capital that comes from other places. And then you're paying off those people once it's all ready to go. You have to go through all these permitting processes, the sewers, electricity. You have to make sure that there's enough schooling in the area before you put a house up. I mean, there's so much goes into it. It isn't like just throw some houses up and call it a day. It's crazy. And there's a lot of red tape that is unnecessary too. Builders will tell you that. Pat Fan says, hello, Christina from New Hampshire. Oh, I love New Hampshire. Golly, if I could, that's my goal next year. I want to go back up north. I should bring my camera with me. We should do a live stream. I just want to look at some of the architecture again and enjoy a New England summer. I want to go to a clam bake and have some fried oysters and clam strips right on the beach. That just sounds delicious. Right on the beach. If you have a question, please put it in the chat. Eddie, were you able to get any of those other articles that I gave you past the paywall? Because they were being I raise honeybees and sell honey and would have caught and has caught some swarms. Oh, okay. So this was Wise Hunt's honeybee sanctuary. I was asking him earlier if he actually catches bees, or he just let me know that, or they just let me know that they raise them to make honey. Bees aren't trapped. They have to have a queen. The worker male bees are kicked out of the colony in the winter. Yeah, I know. I've been watching all this stuff on it. And like, sometimes like the swarm gets kind of lost or whatever, and they'll end up in weird places, or somebody has them like that can be an invasive insect in people's homes. They'll find a spot in a raptor in the attic, and sure enough, they've taken over that whole attic space. So that's what I've been watching is people have them in their homes and they have to cut this whole thing out. And then they have to search for the queen, and then they put the queen in a little basket, and then they put that queen in the basket in the box, and all the bees start trampling down, the bees go marching one by one. They all do like little army. Anyways, totally off the subject, but interesting stuff. Jerome Powell. Oh no, Jerome Powell's in the house. Hello, Jerome. I talk negative about you all the time. I have a couple Black Rocks in my garden. I bet you do. Yep, I bet you have some Vanguards too. Is that lawnmower that changed it into name? I bet you it is. So funny. Clifton Wellman says, hello, everyone. Our 25-year-old is going to move into a travel trailer when we get into our new house. You know what? That's not uncommon too. Travel trailers, and tiny homes, ADUs, manufactured homes. That's another option people are looking into. So you find a house that the older parent can afford, but it will allow for another structure on the piece of property. So usually they're bigger pieces of land. We're talking like 2 acres. So they'll put the main house up front, and then towards the back, they'll have the family member live in that ADU or the manufactured home or the tiny home. So that way, again, they can start saving money for their future. They have their own independent space. And, it gives kids, I say kids loosely. I mean, it was only 30 years ago I was that age. But anyways, if I was like 25 years old and I could have done that with my parents when we first were starting out, I think I would have done it. I really think so. At that age, I would have done it. At my age now, no. But at my age then, yeah, I would have. Especially if I didn't have to like run into them all the time and I have my own space. It's not as unheard of. It's not so foreign to us as it was years ago. Like it would have never been something that was done 30 years ago, but today it seems really viable, a very viable solution. V-Man says, question, companies out there lending on equity and don't have to pay any payments until you sell your home. And when you sell it, you split the profits. Have you heard of this deal? No, but that sounds like a recipe for freaking disaster. Do not, and I just saw this today, do not look at any of these companies. This is a buyer beware. Anybody that's willing to give you a loan on your equity from your house, there's a catch to it. Unless you're going through a bank and doing a home equity line of credit, you're working with a reputable lender or a reputable bank. Don't just start clicking stuff online. And I know that goes without saying, but there was another scam that's out there, that there's a company that's offering people small loans on equity from your house. And, that we're talking $2,000 loan or even as much as $6,000 loan on your home. And the only catch is that when you go to sell it, you use their real estate company to sell the home. And you're like, well, what's the whole thing? And not only that deal, that contract that you're signing is good for 40 years. 40 years. So even if you sell at the 39th year, you're still required to use this specific brokerage. The scam of it all is the brokerage doesn't exist in your state. It exists in Florida. You're not going to be able to use that brokerage to sell your house. And so you as a seller are going to be required to pay them 3%. That's what that's what it says in the contract. You have to pay them 3% whether you use them or not. So that loan that you got for $1,500 off the equity of your house, so you would use them as a real estate company, was really just a hose for them to make 3% of the sale of the price of your home. Wow. And that's what they did. So during the pandemic, this fake brokerage out of Florida started sending out, doing this mass, behind on your bills, we'll help you out. We're going to help you out. You don't even have to pay us back. All you have to do is sign this contract. And when you go to sell your house, you have to use us, and that's it. And then when we sell it, we're going to charge 3%. But they don't exist there. You can't hire them to sell your house. They don't exist in your state, but they will make that 3% whether you use them or not. Dirty, 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 dirty work. It happened all over Colorado. There were over 900 people. And to make it even more legal, they made sure that they filed that within the court records on the property. So it's like almost like a lien on their property. So when they go to sell it, it automatically comes out of the closing disclosure. It's on title work. They file it. So you can't even sneak away from it. Dirty work. Brad Fowler says, is it unreasonable to be rooting for the crash I want to buy? I get it, Brad. I understand where you're coming from. I don't want to see anybody lose their house, but the prices that people have had to pay just to find an affordable place to live, and then what that entails to be affordable today, is absolutely ludicrous. I often have shown this on this live stream and in videos. The home that my husband and I bought for the type of jobs that we had to years ago would not buy us that house, not even close, not even anything remotely like that. I was a hairdresser and my husband was a salesman, and we were making nothing. I mean, terrible. All we were making was terrible decisions, but we were able to buy a house because it was affordable for us. It was a lot more affordable than it is today. To buy a house, I bought a house at it was $130,000, and our interest rate was 7.5%. 7.5% and $135,000 isn't that bad. But if you have 7.5% today, with the median price home being over $400,000, that's absolutely stupid and ridiculous. I understand where you're coming from. I just wish there was a better solution than a crash that you could find an affordable place to live, because I don't want to see anybody suffer. To watch people get foreclosed on and have to do short sales is absolutely heartbreaking. What they have to go through is crazy. The amount of paperwork, and nobody wanted to help them during that time. It was awful. Like the housing crash last time was terrible. And I never want to see families go through that, but I get where you're coming from. I totally get it. Name says, received a letter saying I owe more property tax. Is that normal? I thought I was paying the taxes through my mortgage payment. No, that happens. That happens a lot. Matter of fact, usually your mortgage company will send you a letter letting you know that your property taxes went up, so your payment will go up next year. Sometimes they ask for a lump sum. I don't know who your mortgage is with. That's what years ago, we had Wells Fargo, and all of a sudden I get this thing in the mail. They're like, your payment is going up X amount of dollars, so you have to add this much more to escrow. So I was like, oh, this sucks. So when I bought this house, I made sure that my property taxes and my insurance were separate from the actual mortgage payment. I was not dealing with the mortgage company to handle that anymore, because I always felt like somewhere, shape, or form, something wasn't right. The money wasn't right. They say everything was on the up and up, but it sure didn't feel that way. So this way, I know exactly, like, I know my insurance is paid. It's all paid up front. I know my property taxes are paid. I get a receipt. I actually physically walk in and write them a check right there to make sure that the property taxes are paid. So, you get what I'm saying. You get what I'm saying. Mary Powell says, is it cheaper to put a modular home on a property? You have to, is it cheaper to buy a modular home on a property or buy a house? The property is wooded right now and no city water and sewer. I would do a comparison, first of all, to develop that piece of land, and that will help you decide on what you want to do. Modular homes, if they're a true modular, usually fall in line with the same price point as traditional built homes, because they are traditional built homes. They just happen to be, some of the pieces are made at the factory. To me, I like a modular home better because they have a better seal. They're tighter, better homes in my opinion. This is just my opinion. But they are put together quicker. So if you're on a timeline and a time crunch, just go with modular because they're going to get it done a lot faster. It's like putting Legos together. But the cost of developing that land, you want to make sure that, first of all, you can get water out there, that you can get electricity out there. How much is that pole going to cost you? And how long do you have to dig a well? Are you going to be able to connect to water, city water and sewer? Is that going to be possible? Do you need what kind of sewage system do you need out there? Are you going to be able to get that approved? And the other thing you want to think about, especially in this day and age, is, do you have internet? Can you get internet out there? Can you put your phone out there and is there internet and Wi-Fi? Can you get a signal, basically? So check all those things out ahead of time. Price that out first before you decide on what kind of home you want to build. It's expensive. Developing land, it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap. I know a lot of people think it is. And you can get some good deals. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but definitely check everything out beforehand. Mark R says, hello. My son is in escrow with a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, 9% with a 715 credit score, $2,600 a month with 2 + 2 manufactured homes at 286 on 2.5 acres, water tank, propane tank in Rosamond, California. That's kind of a steal in California. I have to know, is the manufactured home separate from the land itself? I want to know, because the 9% seems kind of high, but what do I know? I'm not a lender. There's a million reasons why interest rates are where they're at. You could have a 715 credit score and you get a 9% or 10% or even 12% interest rate because your debt to income ratio is off in some way. So you have to pay more interest in order to get approval. So just know that, when somebody says, well, I had to pay 8.5%. You're thinking, why do they have to pay 8.5%? There's always numerous reasons. That's why not everybody gets the same interest rates when getting a loan. No. Oh, no, it's separate from the land. See, I knew that. That's why it's 9%. So whenever you're paid, so that type of mortgage is actually called a chattel loan. And that means that it's a separate loan from the actual land. So yeah, I figured that makes a lot more sense. Alex says, won't there be a dramatic drop in value of huge homes because the majority of people don't want a huge house? It's possible, but statistically, it hasn't come to fruition, right? The demand for smaller homes is definitely there, but they're not building them. So in order for people can adapt. So if there's no small homes available, somebody made a very, very plausible comment, is if there's no small homes available, we're going to take this larger home and make it for 2 families, or we're going to rent out rooms. So that way they can afford to find some place to live. People will adapt. They'll always find a way. And like somebody said, they're going to put their kid in a camper behind their house. There's a way. There's the will. There's a way. That's for sure. Peter has a question. It says, is it useful to use simplistic bad guy narratives like Boomer or Airbnbs to blame the complicated problem like housing on? Peter, I don't think the word boomer is negative. That's what the age of a generation. If somebody was to call me an Xer, I wouldn't be totally offended by it. And at Airbnb, I've often said that Airbnb is not going to be the thing that causes a housing crash. There is there's a million factors which causes a housing collapse or a destruction of a correction of a housing market. The last time we had a crash, it's easy to point the fingers at one specific thing, which was bad loans. And don't get me wrong, that was the significant thing. But there were tons of other factors that went into that whole situation for it to balloon the way it was. But the biggest thing was that they wrote bad loans, and we all had to pay for it, all of us as taxpayers. I don't know. I don't blame Airbnb for the problem. A lot of people do. Not Airbnb is all over the country. There's Like, it's kind of silly to think that. Not only that, I've often said this, there's a lot of Airbnbs that are yurts and tiny homes and cottages and stuff. They're not meant for long-term living use. They're meant for vacation homes. So I agree with you. To point the finger at Airbnb for the housing problem is silly, in my opinion. In my opinion. TJ says, question. You're one of the few real estate YouTubers who talks about the expense and problems that arise if you buy a piece of land that doesn't have city water, power, and sewer close by. Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of times though, when a lot of real estate agents are talking about land, it's because they do live in an area that already has city water and sewer. And I just happen to live in an area not everywhere does, like, and the cost of a sewer system can be extremely high. And I've seen that, like, I've closed on houses that didn't almost close because of the sewage system. Because you know what a septic system is, right? Everybody knows what a septic system is. Well, it became a state law that everybody, at the time of selling your home, you had to update that system. Well, some of these people have had their homes for like 60 years, never updated the system, when it sure had the whole thing pumped out, made sure it was up to snuff, but they didn't change out that whole system. We call it a MODAD system. And that's what they're required by the state of Louisiana to change it to. But not every area has that. It's like, you don't know what you don't know. So they can only talk about what they know about in their area. Like, I don't understand about granite and quarries and all that stuff, and some of the mineral rights that are done in contracts in other areas. And some contracts have air rights, so you only can build up X amounts of height above your like a certain, from the elevation from the house, it only can be so high because you only have so much air rights. Like, we don't have any of that. I don't talk about that because it doesn't exist here. So I can't talk about something I don't know. This is really starting to be depressing, the housing as a whole, but it will get better. You know what? Everything has a moment of correction. We're overinflated. To say that home prices are not overinflated, and this is just the market doing what the market does, and everybody else needs to adjust to it, literally makes absolutely no sense. Something has got to pop. Something has got to give at some point. Home prices today are unattainable. The average home in the United States is over $400,000. And if you adjust the interest rates and make them at 5%, still a good portion of Americans cannot afford a home at over $400,000 at a 5% interest rate. Every time some analyst gets on there and like, home affordability is terrible, but if we got interest rates down to 3%, people can't afford a $400,000 house. Incomes do not match that. It makes no sense to me why they keep saying if interest rates were low, people could afford them. Because what is that going to do? If interest rates go down even more, right? And you have a surplus and a backup of pent-up demand that's been sitting there since the pandemic, and we still have a shortage of supply of homes on the market currently. Interest rates go down. What is it? It becomes pandemonium all over again. People that have been waiting on the fence for interest rates to go down so they can afford a house are going to now run out there again and start buying up houses. That means that the median price home again will start going up even more. When is enough enough? Like, are we going to go over 500,000? I don't know. But if it does, that doesn't make sense to buy your very first home. Your very first home to be over 500,000, over like $500,000 to buy a house. Like, what? That makes no sense to me. And I don't think it's crazy to demand and hope that everybody, in my brain, everybody deserves an affordable place to call their own. Everybody, every single human being on this planet deserves a place to call their own that they can afford. It's not that crazy. And why it's turned into the system that it has is beyond me. It's beyond me. Christine, it's happy to see you doing one of these lives again. Awesome housing market group therapy. Yeah, it is group therapy. Yep. Shane says, I got a new HVAC system. Seems like the price of those went up through the roof as well. Important to consider when buying also. You know what? HVAC systems are not cheap. They are not cheap at all. We've had to replace a few over the years. When we bought our very first home, I thought I was going to have a stroke. Uh, this was in 2004. I had a brand new baby in a new house, and we were dying. And they said, "Oh, you have to get a new HVAC system." So we did. And then the new HVAC system came in, and we were still just as hot. So then we found out it was the insulation. But at that time, like we got a deal in 2004, and I think it cost us $6,000 out of pocket. Yikes! Yikes! Fruit stripes. Oh, look, Javier Vidal is in the house. I love Javier. Believe Eddie. Apparently, Javier is a Eddie believer. Christina, me in New Jersey, bank of mom and dad boomers buying houses for cash. That is true. So I've seen this, and I know I've talked to many real estate agents that have seen this. So I don't know if you know this, but the average age for the first time home buyer has gone up significantly. I think it's like 34 right now for the first time home buyer, which makes sense because the homes are so much more expensive. But even with those younger kids that are buying, you're like, oh, how are they getting those money from? Usually parents, grandparents. A lot of people are giving their family members that good down payment so they can buy a house. Bank of mom and dad. That's true. That is true. And I would help my parents. I mean, if I had the money, I would help my kids buy their first house. I mean, I'm not going to, I hope they're not listening because I don't want them to try to cash in right away. I can't afford it now. I still got to put kids through college. Charles says 3 important things when looking at any piece of real estate in this current market. Okay, always the same thing pertains to any market. Always make sure that the location is good. This is the other thing. Is it good now and will it continue to be good? Is the projection of that area going to see growth? Meaning, is there more jobs, more companies moving to that area? Or is there talk that they're shutting down and they're going to be retracting more jobs? The more jobs in the area, the more likely your area is going to go up in price. So you want to buy an area that continues to grow as far as your equity in your house. The other thing is well, those are 3 things: location and job growth. And let me think of one more thing, one really good thing. Oh, the schools. Always. Even if you don't have kids, you're always going to get better return on your investment in an area that has A+ schools. So always look for those school ratings. Traditionally, most areas that have really good public schools also have really good equity in their homes in return on their investment. That's my little piece of mind there. Peter says, why are you talking so negatively? I heard the news that things are great and people are making more money. I'm being realistic. I don't know if I'm talking negatively. I think anybody that walks outside their house and goes to the grocery store and pays for groceries, everything's more expensive. I mean, that's being realistic. Home prices today are a lot more than they were a year ago. And even with interest rates, when they reached over 8%, home prices still continued to go up. That's just reality. I don't think I'm speaking negatively. I'm being honest. I'd rather be honest. I mean, I don't know. Sharon says December 15th, 2023 is the next Fed rate. Yep. What do you think we'll see? Rates go up, stay or lower? My crystal ball says Jerome Powell, who was in the chat not too long ago, I think he's going to pause rates for another term. I think he's going to. This is my. Ooh, I thought aliens were coming to get me. That's Eddie with his sound effects. I think they're going to pause rates again, just like they did this last time. I think that's what I think. Who knows? A girl and a goat. I'm assuming you have a goat. This is really cute. Question: how can home prices go down when building materials are staying so high? Recently got quote for windows on a rental unit. It was $30,000. The house was only $105,000. I know windows are expensive. You can price out windows though. I would like, I don't, do you have Window World there? I know that sounds so incredibly crazy because I normally don't fall for like gimmicky, sales pitches or whatever. But whenever we've had issues here, because we have tons of them with hurricanes and stuff, Window World always comes out to be the cheapest, cheaper than Home Depot, cheaper than Lowe's, all of them. Window World. Check out Window World. Okay, question. What do you got? Oh, Raymond, what's your question? Your question is a question? Raymond, if you have a question, just go ahead, put the word question first, then follow it with the question. Eddie, where's the questions at? Somebody said this. I'm gonna put this on the screen. I love when you said pause rates and then you almost dropped the crystal ball. I've never been an athlete. I didn't play sports, but I did in high school play the mascot. I'm the one who wore the Fuzzy Bee costume. Ooh, pretty scary stuff, huh? If you have a question, please put it in the chat. Just write the word question first, and then I will follow it up with the question you have to ask. Like this person right here, who's on first? Question. There's an economic crash, job loss, home demand drops, prices drop. Will price declines be compounded by investors having to dump their properties? A house of cards, a sell-off to cover losses. You said a lot there. So first off, the jobs market, even though it has not, it isn't has been as strong numbers as it has been in months prior, we're still not seeing a decrease in jobs. We're still looking, there's still not enough employees for the amount of jobs that are out there. So there is no collapse there. And during the last housing crash, do you know who bought up all the foreclosed properties? Institutional investors. That's who bought them. The people that we gave the money to because they were too big to fail took that money and went ahead and bought the foreclosed properties that failed in the first place because of the crappy loans they offered to people. Sucks, right? We got boned. I mean, there's room for debate on if we did the right thing on that. I get that, the whole reason why we did what we did. But in turn, they took that money and bought out those homes. And so home prices couldn't collapse more. And then they found out, oh, wow, we can make a lot of money from this, right? So if there was a wave of baby boomers, a silver tsunami that was going to sell their houses, investors are going to come in, they're going to turn them into rentals. If there was a wave of foreclosures that were going to hit the market, of short sales, which I can't see short sales happening anytime soon. Again, institutional investors are going to be there to save us, but it's all to save them. They make money off of real estate, a lot of money, and they love it. And do you know where they love it the most? They love manufactured home parks because they can really, really, really mess with those people. It always seems like the people that make the most disadvantaged, the most income restricted people always get the worst hand dealt to them when it comes to these situations. And it happens to be that people that live in manufactured home parks are getting boned bad once an institutional investor takes over. It's terrible. Absolutely terrible. Horrible, as I always say. Horrible. Horrible. All right. Next question. All right. Oh, Mark R says, question, did everybody hit the thumbs up button? Hey, you know what? If you're on your cell phone, I think even on laptop now, they actually have reactions where you can hit the little hearts and the little thumbs ups and stuff. Like they have these little reaction things. So they float across the screen when you do a bunch of them. Apparently that's really good for YouTube. They love that stuff. And the other thing that YouTube loves is if you share the live stream. If you go out and share that, they really enjoy that. Stu Jordan says, did I miss the silver tsunami explanation? You did, but I'll explain it one more time. So about 15 years ago, an economist came out and said there is going to be a numerous amount of baby boomers, since they own the most homes in the United States, that as they get older, they're going to sell those homes, those smaller homes, and move to other retirement areas, meaning that there would be a influx, a tsunami of smaller homes that need to be renovated that would hit the market because baby boomers are no longer going to live there. This analysis, this woman just came out and said, yes, this is absolutely going to happen because older people are going to want to downsize and they're not going to want to stay in their family homes. The problem that none of these people has put in perspective is that over the last 20 years, home builders have not built smaller homes for baby boomers or even first-time home buyers to move to. That doesn't exist. They don't build smaller houses. They haven't been since the last housing crash. So, yeah, that's what the silver tsunami is. I even 15 years ago when they started talking about this, I thought it was literally bullpucky. And to this day, I still think this is complete. It's a headline that sells a newspaper. And we had 2 other articles that were supposed to come up. But again, they hit a paywall. They hit a paywall and they wouldn't let us show them up on the screen. So Adventure Edgar says, a lien was found on my property and I'm buying. I no longer want the property. Realtor insists I sign an extension because I have to give the sellers 30 days to resolve the lien. It's true. Is this true? That will depend on your state. That depends on your state. I honestly would not, I'm not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole because it really honestly depends on the state that you live in. But if you're really concerned about it, like if you don't want the property anymore and there's this lien on there and everything else, and you want to get out of it, I would call the title company that's actually doing the research on the lien and ask to speak to the closing title attorney. He has no duty to withhold information to you, or I'm saying it could be a she. They have no duty to withhold information to you about the property that you're purchasing. So they'll tell you if that's true or not. And they'll understand the legality of it better than anybody, especially some girl in Louisiana on YouTube. So that's what I do. Contact the title attorney that's taking care of the lien that's on the property. Go around your realtor. Sometimes you have to. And if you're really, really worried about it and you really don't trust them, contact that realtor's broker. So, Christina, how much today to build a stick frame 2,000 square foot home? 200 square feet, 2,000 square foot home. Well, it depends on where you live. I don't know what the average is for a 2,000 square foot home. I haven't looked that up in a while. You're wondering if it's like 200 per square foot. I just don't know the answer to that. I'll have to look that up. At one time here in Louisiana, when I moved here, it was just a scotch over $100 per square foot here. And a lot of like older homes were under $76 a square foot. That was like way back in 2006. It's not like that today. I wish. But even then, I thought it was awesome. I couldn't believe it. Mark has a really good question. I'm going to put this on the screen, Eddie. Mark says, is that coffee cup bigger than your head? Mark, if you love this coffee cup, I don't make these. I don't design them. I actually tried to get some that made with my logo. Couldn't find a company to do it. But Amazon actually sells these. And these are my favorite. This is my favorite teacup. I actually put tea in it. And yes, it is. It's probably the same size as my melon. There's a link in the description. It's an Amazon affiliate link to these cups if you want one. They're awesome. I love them. Everybody that comes to the house, they're like, these are great cups. And I'm like, I like big cups and you cannot lie. You other brothers can't deny. So, Christina, how much? Oh, I already put that. Eddie, I already did that question. Eddie, I did that question. I already answered Bob. Eddie, I already answered that question. He's probably playing with the cats. He didn't realize it. I don't know if you guys know this. I have 6 cats. So he's in the room where the cats hang out. Oh, the property is in Louisiana. Okay, I'll still tell you to go ahead and contact that title attorney. And that, I know this for sure. They have no duty towards the sellers or anything. They're just going to give you the straight facts about it. and he'll let you know if you're required to sign it or not. They'll let you know. They'll let you know. V-Man says, question, what are your thoughts on the 40-gallon gas water compared to the tankless? Is it worth doing tankless? Oh, this is my personal experience. So, and this is just from me alone. I love a tankless water heater with I have 2 teenage daughters, right? And then I have myself and my husband who showers twice a day. I could not live without my tankless hot water heater. I think they're fantastic. And here in Louisiana, I don't know why they do this, but they put the hot water heaters in the attic. In Florida, they always put them in the garage, but here they put them in the attic. At any time, at any point, there's all these safety things that are supposed to happen so your hot water heater doesn't leak. But, life freaking happens and that thing leaks. It sucks so bad. It's terrible, like terrible. Hands down, in my opinion, tankless hot water heater all the way. But that's just my opinion. You got to do your little pros and cons and a little bit of research. But I will never, ever, ever, ever again own a regular traditional hot water heater. Absolutely not. Somebody said, no, her head is smaller than the coffee cup. Lawnmower always says that it's not the coffee cup that's big. Christina just happens to be very tiny. That's what he always says. Oh, Eddie, after this, make sure you put up Karen Stasik's comment because I want to talk about this really quick. Question, if you have enough to buy rural land with cash, should I do it in this market since people aren't buying? I want to rent it out, the land for camping and eventually build some short-term rental building. Typically land does not fluctuate in price like a piece of property with a structure on it, right? I would just price it out and see how much has gone up. You can always negotiate, try to get a deal on it. And I would really look into the covenants in that area and what kind of restrictions that are going to be available to you on that piece of land. You may be able to have, let's just say, a couple little tiny homes on that piece of property, but you may not be able to put a campfire up, right? Or they'll say, oh, you can have campfires here, but you can only have one permanent structure on the property. Find out everything you need to find out about that piece of land before you do anything, and negotiate. If it's in a great area and you can make some money off of it, negotiate it. One of my favorite things to do is people that have taken pieces of land that nobody ever wanted and then turned it into Airbnb businesses. As much as we all hate Airbnbs, like a lot of people dog on them all the time, to take a piece of property, put up some really cool glamping tents up there, give people an experience of camping without really camping. And then you're making money off of like a $3,000 lot that you got for basically nothing. And then you have like an outhouse type thing for them to go to the bathroom. I mean, come on. That's awesome. That's smart. That's a way to make money. Yeah, do it. Dare it. I mentioned that in my land video. It's like the one, if you ever want to learn about land, one of the best videos I put out there is the one with the most views on land. Like if you just sort by popularity, look for the top 3 videos that I did on land, and those pretty much cut out everything you need to know about land. There's gonna be other things, but Karen says the village is no longer really affordable for many. Home prices have risen here too. Karen, I don't know if you know this, but a million years ago, I was a waitress in the villages at a little restaurant called Cafe Olay. And they actually started off as a mobile home park. No lie. It was a mobile home park where they were building a golf course community, right? And of course it blew up. The whole family started selling all the real estate out there. I knew all of them out there. They were super nice family. They were super nice, honestly. And then that blew up. And even at that time, it was starting to get really expensive. This is even before Eddie. This is pre-Eddie. BE that I lived out there. And it was expensive then. I can't imagine as, even they keep spreading out further and further and further through Ocala. And I'm like, how much further can they go? But they've found ways to make golf cart roads go everywhere. It's amazing little area though. I mean, how cool is it? They have everything you possibly need. Anything recreational, any kind of food, fun, entertainment, hospitals. I mean, that is a phenomenon. Really, honestly, amazing little area. I would live out there if I could afford it. I think. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't go back to Florida again in my life. What am I talking about? What am I talking about? Excuse me, my throat's getting a little dry. I love this screen name. Utter bullspit. Utter bullspit says hot water heaters need to be in the garage. Period. Period. You want to know something crazy? Our hot water heater is on the side of our house, but we don't have big deep freezes here, right? So, yeah. And then like the traditional hot water heater, the traditional one, but they should be in the garage. Like that blew my mind that it was in the attic. I don't like it. My parents is in the attic. I don't like that. You know what's funny too? Because they're in the attic, the location of them sucks. So if you have to get a brand new hot water heater, do you know what happens? They have to cut a bigger hole because the hot water heater doesn't fit through the freaking stairs, right? So a lot of times people just leave the old hot water heater up there. So when you go up there, there's like 2 or 3 freaking hot water heaters up there because they couldn't fit it through the hole. They were going to pay the extra to cut a hole and then have it repaired. So they leave the old hot water heater sitting up there. So stupid. So dumb. I don't make the rules. I just follow them. Kind of. Rod says, all starter homes in my area are going for $350 to $380 per square foot. Holy smokes. I've saved $75,000 in hopes of gaining a 20%. Bigger homes are $260 to $300 per square foot. If it doesn't, it didn't make sense for me to go bigger without the 20%. I agree. I see what you're doing. That's smart. And honestly, the bigger homes, like never buy the biggest house in a neighborhood. You're never going to make as much money as you would with those median and smaller houses in the neighborhood. That was the best piece of advice somebody told me. I had bought our very first house was the ugliest, smallest house in the neighborhood. And we sold it for pretty good money after we fixed it up. So Alfie says, how come so many YouTubers keep saying there's a housing crash? Obviously, there's no crash. Do you know why, Alfie? I'm going to tell you exactly why. YouTubers have a job, and their job is to get you to click on a video. And they found out a couple years ago, the recipe to get people to watch a bunch of real estate videos is to talk about a housing crash. And they didn't have to use data. They didn't even have to, they literally just took a data point and said, this is what's happening and it's going to happen again. And since so many people have been so desperate to find a more affordable home to purchase, that's what they're holding. Like, that's the whole thing. They know that people will click on those videos. And the more that people click on those videos, the more money they make from those videos. So they continue to make those videos because people click on them. It's one of those things, and it's our responsibility as real estate agents. I make videos about a housing crash, but I'm being realistic. And I'm like, okay, what we really have is an affordability crisis. It's not a crash. We have an affordability crisis. And that's what I've been saying for 2 years. But anytime I talk about crash, I'm basically I'm countering what those other crash bros keep saying. That's what I call them, the crash bros, because there's a whole group of them. They all make the same kind of video and they get hundreds of thousands of views on it, and then they make another one. So Stacy says, I own a house outright, bought in 2018, appreciated by $200,000. Should I sell now or hold on longer? Oh, Stacy, that's a loaded question. I mean, do you need to sell it? Do you want to buy another house? What are you looking to do? What advantages would it be to sell your home right now? Like, if you don't have to sell, why do you want to sell it? Like there's so many different reasons. Are you planning on taking that money and investing it in other houses? Are you going to put it into the stock market? Are you going to buy NFTs? If you were going to take that money and buy NFTs, I'd say don't do it. I'm not financial advice, by the way, not financial advice. I'm just saying I would figure out why you would want to sell. Like, do some pros and cons of what's the reasoning for your selling this house. Is it because you just love the idea that you just made $200,000? Or, do you need the house? You just think on it, chew on it. But if you have any more questions, you guys, like, if you're looking for a real estate agent in your area, look, you can just go to my website, ChristinaSmallhorn.com, and click on any of the pink tabs. Once you click on one of those pink tabs, fill out the form that, just says, like, I'm looking for a house. I want to buy in this specific area. And please leave your phone number. If you don't leave your phone number, I can't call you. And yes, I personally give you a phone call. It's me who calls you on the telephone. No one ever believes it's me. I swear on my mother's uncle that it's me who calls you. And we'll talk about your real estate needs. I do that every week. This week, it's going to be a little rough, though. If you fill out that form this week, it's going to be a little rough because we have the little turkey day. I'm doing all the cooking because, as you know, my mom's been very ill and she doesn't cook anymore. So I'm doing all the cooking except for the turkey. My dad's doing the turkey. I'm doing this, all the sides, every single one of them. So, and look, if you wanted to listen to this with your family and friends on Thanksgiving, I'd love you to jump over to this has all been recorded and it goes up on a podcast. So anywhere you get your podcast, you could actually listen to this and share it with your friends and family. I'm on Spotify, Apple, all of them. Just go ahead over there. And if they ask you to rate the podcast, give it a 5-star. I'd really appreciate it. That really makes a lot to me. It really means a lot to me. I hope you guys have a fantastic turkey day. Make sure you defrost that damn turkey. I'm telling you right now, nothing's worse than pulling out a frozen turkey. And just a little cooking suggestion, brine your turkey. It makes it so incredibly juicy. So good. Yeah. Yeah. Dorothy knows. Yeah, I was surprised, but Christina does call. As promised, I do call. I'm not that important. I hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Make sure you cook your turkey enough. I don't want to hear anybody having food poisoning. That is not allowed. Christina says no. No one is allowed to have food poisoning on Thanksgiving. It makes it damp. Bye, everybody. Be good. Have a trouble.